Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you send us and, well, we dig into them to pull out the key insights.
Exactly. And today we've got a really compelling interview. It's with Pierre. He's 35, a pastry chef.
Right, living with lupus erythematosus, systemic LES. But the fascinating part is how he's found relief.
Yeah, significant release. And not just through the usual medical routes, but through Pilates.
Which might seem surprising, right, given his demanding job in a hot kitchen and dealing with a chronic illness.
It really might. So this interview, it's a very personal story. Our mission here is to understand Pierre's journey with lupus,
Yeah.
how he actually got into Pilates, and the impact, the real changes it's made for him, physically, mentally, the whole picture.
It's a great example for listeners, I think, showing how someone navigates these big health challenges and finds, well, unexpected ways to thrive.
Definitely. It shows you paths you might not have considered.
Okay, so let's start with the beginning for Pierre. The challenges. He was diagnosed fairly young, at 30.
Yeah, and he talks about that initial period being really tough, trying to get a handle on the symptoms, joint pain, this constant fatigue, skin sensitivity.
And those are kind of vague sometimes, hard to pin down initially.
Exactly. And then you layer on his job, pastry chef.
I mean, that's hours standing,
Yeah.
lifting things, the heat from the ovens. It's physically demanding.
He said it got so bad, the exhaustion,
Mhm.
that he was actually thinking about changing careers entirely.
Wow. That really shows you the scale of the impact, doesn't it? It wasn't just discomfort. It was threatening his whole livelihood, his passion.
It really puts into perspective how a diagnosis like lupus can just, upend everything you've built, the job, the daily life, facing that uncertainty.
Definitely a crisis point. Which leads us to how Pilates came into the picture.
Right, it wasn't his idea initially. A friend who happens to be a physiotherapist suggested machine Pilates.
And Pierre's reaction, which I think a lot of people might share, was kind of, isn't that just for dancers?
Huh? Yeah, that stereotype. But he went for it. He tried a studio, Biopilates Paris, with Caroline Berger de Fémynie.
And that first impression seems key. He said he felt welcomed straight away, noted how professional it all was.
Which is so important, isn't it? When you're trying something new, especially if you're feeling a bit vulnerable because of health stuff, that initial welcome mat, basically.
Absolutely. Starting any new physical thing can be intimidating. Add in a condition like lupus with its unpredictability.
Yeah, feeling safe and supported from the get-go probably made a huge difference in him sticking with it.
Makes you wonder how often that initial environment is the make or break factor for people trying new health approaches.
It's a really good point. And he really highlights Caroline's specific approach, too.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, it wasn't generic. She really listened. He felt heard about his specific issues. She watched how he moved and was just incredibly patient and encouraging.
Patience seems like a big theme here.
And her availability, too. He mentioned she'd even do super early morning sessions so he could fit it in before his long shifts at the bakery.
That's real dedication, going above and beyond.
That kind of personalized care, adapting to his reality, that's often what makes the real difference with chronic conditions. It's not one size fits all.
So what about the physical changes? What did he actually start to feel?
First off, he talks about rediscovering his body, like a connection he'd lost. Body awareness.
Okay.
And the equipment helped. The reformer, for instance, allowed for gentle movement in his spine, supported movement.
Less strain, maybe.
Exactly.
Sure.
And work on the chair, another piece of Pilates equipment, really improved his balance.
Which he mentioned was important because the fatigue could make him unsteady, risk falls.
Right, so better balance, less risk. And the big one for his job, he could actually get through a full workday without being completely physically destroyed by the end of it.
That is huge. That's the difference between keeping your career and not.
These are really practical, tangible benefits addressing the exact problems lupus was causing him in his work. It shows how even seemingly gentle exercise can build functional strength and stamina.
And it wasn't just the studio sessions, was it? He took it home too.
Yeah, he started doing mat Pilates at home. Just 10 minutes some mornings.
Only 10 minutes.
Seems small, but he found it really helped for recentering himself, reducing pain, improving his breathing. Simple, but effective.
Consistency over intensity, maybe?
Could be. And he noticed something else, quite subtle but significant. How he reacted to stress physically.
Oh, like what?
You know how people tense up, shoulders creeping up towards the ears when stressed?
Yeah.
He found that wasn't happening as much.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
He described it as finding this, internal lever he could use to just release that tension.
That's a fantastic image, an internal lever.
And he also mentioned Caroline's books and her YouTube videos, freely available ones, were a big help for daily support, makes it accessible.
So it becomes part of the fabric of his day, not just an appointment.
Exactly. That integration seems key.
Mhm.
And that ability to manage the physical side of stress is huge with lupus, as stress can often trigger flare-ups.
So it's a tool for managing the condition itself, in a way.
Precisely. And it
That,
empowers him.
huh.
He's got resources beyond the studio, makes you think, how can we all find those small, consistent practices?
Yeah, to manage our own physical and emotional states day to day, it's not just about big workouts.
Not at all. And that leads really nicely into the mental side of things for Pierre.
Because the impact wasn't just physical, right?
Far from it.
Yeah.
He talked about this big shift in perspective from feeling sort of passive, like the lupus was just happening to him, to feeling like an active participant, like he was managing his health.
Taking back some control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says lupus is still there, obviously, it hasn't vanished. But it doesn't run his life anymore. It doesn't dictate his days in the same way.
That sense of agency must be incredibly powerful.
Immense. And he
Yeah.
connects it quite beautifully, I thought, to his work. He feels this pride in maintaining his Pilates routine and compares that satisfaction to the feeling of creating a perfect lemon meringue tart.
Oh, wow. That's his signature pastry, isn't it? We have to talk about that later.
We definitely do. But that comparison, it shows how mastery and discipline in one area can fuel confidence and agency in another, seemingly unrelated part of life.
That's a really insightful connection. Overcoming helplessness is so important with chronic illness.
It really is. And that feeling of accomplishment, whether from nailing a Pilates move or perfecting a recipe, it builds on itself.
So, given all this, what's his advice for other people, maybe people who are hesitant about trying Pilates like he initially was?
His advice is really simple and direct. Just try it, even just once.
Nothing to lose, basically.
That's his message. What have you got to lose? And he adds something crucial. Learn to listen to your body.
Back to that body awareness theme.
Yes. He credits Pilates with teaching him that skill and says it now guides him in everything. It's about tuning in.
That simple push, just try it once, can be all it takes to get over that initial hurdle, that inertia.
Absolutely. Overcoming those preconceived ideas, like his dancer's only thought. And the listening to your body part, that's a core principle of Pilates, right? It goes way beyond just the exercises.
It's about understanding your body's signals, respecting them.
Exactly. Responding with care, not just pushing through regardless.
Okay, we can't put it off any longer. We have to discuss this lemon meringue tart, his signature creation.
Yes. He describes it so vividly. It sounds like, well, perfection. This balance between the sharp lemon and the sweet meringue.
Tell me more. The details.
Okay, so the lemon cream, smooth, intensely tart, really lemony, that sits on a crisp shortbread crust. Classic base.
Good contrast in texture there.
Then the meringue. And it's specifically Italian meringue.
Which is made with hot sugar syrup, right? Gives it stability and shine.
Exactly. So it holds its shape beautifully. He pipes it into these lovely rosettes.
Oh, nice presentation.
And then lightly browns it with a blowtorch. Just kisses it with flame.
It sounds absolutely divine. Proper artistry.
It really does. Reflects that precision and care you see in dedicated pastry chefs.
But wait, there's a twist, isn't there? Something unique he does.
Yes. This is the genius part, I think. He subtly infuses the lemon cream with fresh mint and basil.
Mint and basil in lemon meringue tart.
I know, right? Unexpected. He says it adds this amazing freshness, almost like a hint of a mojito.
Wow, okay. I'm trying to imagine that. Tart lemon, sweet meringue, crispy base, and then this cool herbal lift.
He describes the result as this complex mix of textures and flavors. Indulgent, yes, but also really refined because of that herbal note.
That's brilliant, taking a classic and just adding that one signature element that makes it completely his own.
It really shows his creativity, that willingness to experiment, to add an unexpected layer. It elevates it.
And when you think about it, there's a parallel there, isn't there, between his pastry and his Pilates?
How so?
Well, both require this incredible attention to detail, balance like the tart and sweet, or balance and movement, precision, control, awareness.
That's a great point. The discipline needed for perfecting that tart mirrors the discipline for his Pilates practice. Both demand focus, understanding nuance.
It really connects the dots, showing how that commitment to craft, whether it's pastry or well-being, demonstrates the sort of transformative power of, well, disciplined creativity in his life.
It's not just managing lupus. It's actively creating a fulfilling life despite it. The different parts enrich each other.
So let's wrap up this deep dive. We've followed Pierre's journey dealing with lupus, finding Pilates, and the huge impact it had.
Yeah, we saw the physical benefits, being able to work, better balance, more stamina, really practical stuff.
And just as importantly, that mental and emotional shift. Feeling in control again, taking pride in his routine.
Absolutely, regaining that sense of agency. And we even got that fascinating link to his passion for pastry, his amazing lemon meringue tart.
His story really drives home how looking beyond the obvious, exploring different approaches like Pilates, can make such a difference to your quality of life, even with serious health issues.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the best solutions are found off the beaten path, outside our initial expectations.
Definitely. So it leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Hearing Pierre's story, where in your own life, maybe health, maybe work, maybe a creative pursuit, might a different approach yield surprising results?
Yeah, perhaps an approach focusing on that kind of body awareness, that consistent, mindful effort, rather than just the conventional route.
Sometimes trying something unexpected, stepping outside the usual way of doing things, can lead to the most meaningful changes. Something to think about.